Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsey, and as always, I have the fantastic pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm excellent, Brian. We just watched the post position draw for the Kentucky Derby. It's just a matter of days now.
We're finally here, Matt. We've been talking about this impending race we have every year in Louisville for months now, and it's finally Derby week. We're just days away, and Matt, we're looking at a good one. Let's jump right into what we saw with the draw and the morning line odds, Matt. And I think the biggest news from the draw was there wasn't all that much news from the draw as far as the big names getting hurt by post positions.
Sure. I think it was one of the most inconsequential draws that I can remember in a long time. There can't be too many trainers of the main contenders who would have that much to complain about, especially along the rail. The first four spots were drawn by horses that, in my handicapping, were horses that I really wasn't considering using very seriously.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Matt. I think there are a lot of people like Flame Away, and we certainly like Flame Away a lot as a horse. He drew the 4-hole, which isn't the worst post in the world. Free Drop Billy is a long shot. I know people are considering he drew the 2-hole. Matt, on my list, I actually had Firenze Fire and Promises Fulfilled as the last two of my charting the top 20 here. And Firenze Fire was the unlucky horse who drew the 1, but a horse who I didn't like no matter where he drew. So, Mr. Service is not happy, but as far as the ultimate result of this Kentucky Derby, probably not such a bad horse to draw the worst post position. I think most of us agree that that's the rail in this Kentucky Derby ever since they've had the auxiliary gate and 20 horses. Promises Fulfilled in the 3-hole means he'll have even less distance to that first turn, and he should show a lot of speed. We expect him to be the pace setter. Let's talk a little bit about the favorites, Matt. These are the numbers. Audible 5, Good Magic 6, Justify 7. They're all together there. Then we skip out to Bolt Doro 11, Mendelssohn 14 at the end of the first starting gate. Then on the auxiliary gate, we see Magnum Moon 16 and Vino Rosso 18. Those are the 7 favorites. Again, no complaints.
Yeah, no big complaints, I don't think. I'm sure that Todd Pletcher, ideally wasn't extremely happy about what happened in having 3 horses out in the auxiliary gate. But, historically, Brian, being on the far outside is a better place to be than being on the far inside, as we know. Big Brown won from post position 20 in 2008, and I'll have another one from post position 19 in 2012. So you've got some recent victories from way out there. It is out in the middle of the track, but it's kind of safe out there also. Horses in the middle can get pinched and from the outside horses trying to get position, the inside horses trying to get up into the first turn. So they may have to run a little bit more distance, but it's less chance of bad things happening out there.
I agree, Matt. There's a less crush from the far outside, and yeah, you're right. They might have to run a few yards farther in the long run, but just the position of not being squeezed in or less likely to be squeezed in any way early in the race, I think is an advantage. So that makes up for the slight a bit of extra distance they might have to run early. It's a long run up until that first turn at Churchill Downs here as the gate starts even slightly before the turn there. So plenty of opportunity, especially for those horses like Vino Rosso, to move over and get a spot probably in the second half of the field, or Magnum Moon, Solomini, Noble Indy, horses with some early pace to move in, draft, and find a nice spot closer to the pace. Now let's talk about individually the favorites. Audible, Good Magic, Justify 5, 6, 7. I don't think any of them can be too upset. I see Audible and Good Magic probably looking for more of a middle of the pack positioning, while Justify we would expect a little bit closer to the pace. 5, 6, and 7, there should be some jockeying for position, and I think it's interesting that 3 of the favorites are consecutive there, closer to the inside. But Justify the 7-hole, lucky number 7. He was made the 3-1 morning line favorite. I think Bafford's got to be happy with that position, and Pletcher and Brown, no worries, just inside him.
Yeah, for sure. I think Baffert is very happy with that post for Justify. I think he was happy about anything as long as it wasn't on the rail or right there. Justify with his, stalking running style will be able to have his eye on the likely pace setters in Promises Fulfilled and maybe Flame Away. He'll see them try to break quickly and head out to the first turn. I think those 5, 6, 7s in Audible and Good Magic and Justify, their riders will be, sitting chilly on their horses, waiting for the pack to break out, hoping they don't get pinched or squeezed in any way, so that they can get their horses to settle down and find a nice, comfortable spot.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what Audible and Good Magic do early, with Justify expecting to go just a little bit quicker out than those 2 will, but still middle of the pack. And I think it's a good thing that just outside Justify we have horses that should be farther back, certainly farther back, and that's 3 in a row in Lone Sailor in the 8, Hofburg the 9, My Boy Jack in the 10. They all want to drop back farther for sure. So that gives the likelihood of Audible, Good Magic, and Justify having just a little bit more time and room to maneuver early in the race. Bolt Doro in the 11, that's a real good spot. It's right in the middle of this pack. And, any post position in the Kentucky Derby can turn out to be bad in any given year. 20 horses and all the excitement and the noise of the Kentucky Derby, anything can happen. So one could turn out to be a lot better than another one. Or another post position, but on average, one is the toughest. Bolt Doro I like in the 11, and I think Mendelssohn in the 14 has to be happy. He's at the end of the normal starting gate, so he even has a little bit of room to his right, getting out of the 14. Good spots for Mendelssohn. 5-1 second choice. Bolt Doro in the 11 is 8-1.
Yeah, I think that the jockeys in the Kentucky Derby have to go into the gate with several different scenarios going on in their head. If things work out ideally, but what happens if they run into some trouble and get pinched back? They have to be prepared and have scenarios planned out for just about anything to happen in this 20-horse field. And it's inevitable that some horses are going to have a tough time, meaning things aren't going to go ideally when the horses come out of the gate.
That's right, Matt. And going back to the favorite, Justify in 7, I thought it was a little bit of a good thing to have real closers, 3 closers in a row to his outside. But then you do have some more speed. You mentioned certainly Promises Fulfilled and probably Flame Away to his inside. But then you have horses, maybe even Bolt Doro or Enticed are close. Bravazzo, there's good reason to believe he'll be close in the 13 hole. Mendelssohn should show some speed from 14. Magnum Moon, Solomini, and Noble India, as we already mentioned, 16, 18, 19. So Justify could find himself inside some of that speed coming in from the outside. So race tactics and, to be honest, Matt, a lot of racing luck will be key in here. Matt, let's talk a little bit about this morning line. Again, no big surprises. We expected Justify to be 3-1. Mike Battaglia has made Mendelssohn a slight second choice over Magnum Moon. Did that surprise you at all?
I don't think that surprised me that much. I guess maybe I'm a little bit more surprised, and in terms of betting, it'll be interesting to see if these odds stay up like on a horse like Good Magic, and who is 12-1 on the morning line, which makes him the co-6th choice at this point. and a 12-1 at 12-1 would be an extremely generous price for a horse that just won the Bluegrass and is reported to be training very, very well for the race.
Yeah, one of the horses that I've really liked how he looks in the mornings is Good Magic. Certainly he's muscled up since earlier this year or when he won the Breeders' Cup last year as a 2-year-old. Good Magic does look good to me. Yeah, I was a little surprised. More than anything in this morning line, I think was the odds on Good Magic. There's a lot of good horses in here, Matt. So there's going to be good horses who have some odds. But I was a little surprised that Good Magic was put down at 12-1. Clearly behind Bolt Doro and Audible. Mendelssohn, Magnum Moon, I could have gone either way, second, third choice there. But I think Good Magic might get that a little bit more than 12-1. And if he is 12-1, I think those are some very attractive odds on the 2-year-old champion, a horse I think will like 10 furlongs, and a horse we've both been saying looks to be building up to this race. So Good Magic was the one that stood out for me. The rest makes sense. I think Bolt Doro might drift a little higher than 8-1. Audible 8-1. That's probably in the right neighborhood. And Vino Rosso 12-1. I would be surprised if he's as low as Good Magic. I thought he would be a little bit higher, or I think he will be a little bit higher. 3-1 on Justify, Matt. Does it make sense? Is it about right?
I think those are two separate questions. Does it make sense, and does it sound right? I do think it sounds right. I may even think that he could even be less than 3-1, that maybe he could be 5-2 or maybe even 2-1 if the media attention that this horse has gotten thus far is any reflection of the sentiment of the American race fan, then, and especially because he got a good post position draw. I think he could be less than that. Your first question, does it make sense? That's a whole different discussion. Are those odds 3-1, 5-2, 2-1, the kind of value you or I would want on a horse that's only run 3 times and has only faced 14 total horses in his career? I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to beat him. It's hard to imagine him being lower than 3-1 against all these good horses, but I think you're right. It's possible he's even lower than 3-1. Matt, let's get into our bets. People want to know who we're betting, and we're going to talk about a few of our favorite bets. Let me start with the Derby only bet for me, and this is I like to pair all these good races. The Derby, there's a lot of good races over Friday and Saturday at Churchill Downs. I can't wait to see a lot of these different races. So I'm going to be making some multi-race wagers. But in the Derby only, I've narrowed it down to my favorite bet is a trifecta. I really feel pretty strongly, Matt, that this is such a strong group at the top that there's a really good chance that we're going to get no shockers, no 50-1, 60-1, 70-1 shots that run second or third this year. So I feel pretty good about a pretty simple trifecta. The horses that I'm excited to bet at the odds, and I think that all 3 of them are going to be above 8-1, and we're looking at 9, 10, 11, maybe even 15-1, are Vino Rosso probably being the highest of the 3. Good Magic, who we talked about, 12-1 would be great. And Bolt Doro, who I mentioned, I think will be a little higher than his 8-1 morning line. So I'm gonna key those 3, and I think they have a great chance to like how this Derby will set up. They're experienced, and I think they're 1.25 mile horses, more so than maybe some of the favorites. So I'm going to use those 3 on top, and then I'm going to stick with the big guns running second and third, Matt. So my $1 trifecta part wheel here will be Bolt Doro, Good Magic, Vino Rosso on top. I'll throw those same 3 horses in for second and third, with the same group of 5 other horses in second and third as well. And those others will be Justify, Mendelssohn, Magnum Moon, and who am I missing here, Matt? Audible and Hofburg. So if I can get one of those 3 to win, and then any of the other 2 or the other 5 to run second and third, this $126 wager will be a winner. And if I'm right about the odds on the top horse, I think it could pay quite a bit more than that.
Yeah, Brian, and that kind of ticket structure, folks, that Brian just described to you, is a really good way to get your top choices involved with a bunch of other horses and give yourself a really good opportunity to come up with a nice payout in the trifecta. You might be saying, but that's $126. Well, Kentucky Derby only happens once a year, and it's a 20-horse field, and you got to make an investment in some of these plays to come up with a big kind of score, which is what you and I both try and do in the Kentucky Derby, because we don't get 20-horse fields in the U.S. Very often. So I'm going to do a trifecta also, and this is another way, folks. I'm going to structure it a little bit differently. I like Vino Rosso a lot in here. I like Vino Rosso, maybe not necessarily to win it, but I like Vino Rosso to get second and third in there, and I think he's going to be a good price. It's 12-1 morning line, but I think Brian and I both agree that there are so many good horses. The post position farther out, he's probably going to be a bigger price than that. So I'm going to key Vino Rosso in 3 different trifecta tickets. One of them will have him in first place. Another one will have him in second place. And then another one will have him in third place. When I have him on top, and I'm going to play 50-cent trifecta in here, Brian, because I'm doing 3 tickets. That'll lower the price a little bit. I'm going to put Vino Rosso on top with 10 horses in second and 10 horses in third. That's a total of 100 combinations. So for 50 cents, that's only a $50 ticket approximately. The horses that I'm going to use with Vino Rosso are Audible, Good Magic, Mendelssohn, Justify, Magnum Moon, Hofburg, Bolt Doro, Noble Indy, My Boy Jack, and Salamini. Like Brian says, it's most of the big names. And then I'll use those horses again. When I have Vino Rosso in second or third, I'm going to use 5 horses on top. Those horses would be Audible, Good Magic, Mendelssohn, Justify, Magnum Moon, then Vino Rosso, and then the 10 horses. And I'll do the same thing with another ticket with Vino Rosso in third. Those tickets will only cost $25. So I'm using a lot of horses. It's not costing that much. I'm, putting my faith that Vino Rosso can get in there in the top 3.
Yes, and I like that ticket a lot, or those tickets a lot too, Matt. Vino Rosso is certainly my top value horse in here. I think he's going to be about 15-1, folks. So Matt's saying he's going to run first, second, or third because he likes him at the odds too, triggering a good trifecta payout. I like that bet a lot. For me, I'm saying, hey, one of the horses with odds is going to win. Vino Rosso, Good Magic, Bolt Doro. And then I get the big names thrown in Hofburg, Matt, because Hofburg is another horse who's really impressed me the way he looks this week here at Churchill Downs. So those are our trifecta bets for betting only the Kentucky Derby. Matt, I do want to talk about probably my favorite bet of the year. I love these races. So I'm going to do a little pick 3 with the Kentucky Oaks. This year it's called the Old Forester Turf Classic, and then the Kentucky Derby. I'm going to keep this simple, folks. You can bet as little as 50 cents or more on these. I'm going to do 2 $1 pick 3s. The first one will have my real strong pick for the Kentucky Oaks, and I think the post position draw made me feel even better about her. Might rain on Friday. The track might not be fast. She's won on wet courses before. So Midnight Basue, in my first ticket, I'm going to key her to win the Oaks. And then I'm going to use 5 horses in the turf, and they are Arklow, Beach Patrol, Deauville, Kurloff, and Synchrony. I think one of those 5 will win the turf race. And then I'm going to use the 3 that I used in my trifecta, which is Vino Rosso, Good Magic, Bolt Doro, and the 2 horses that actually scare me the most, Magnum Moon and Mendelssohn. So that's 5 in the Derby, 5 in the Turf with Midnight Bassoon. That's a $25 ticket for a $1 bet. And then I'm going to hedge my wager a little bit in the second ticket. I'm going to use Midnight Bassoon again, but I'm also going to throw in Monomoy Girl, the likely favorite, 13 hole. There is some speed. I think Midnight Bassoon can beat her, but I have a lot of respect for how good Monomoy Girl is. So I want her on one of those two tickets. And I'm also going to throw on my top long shot in the Oaks, which is the late running Eskimo Kisses. And this one I'll use a little bit less, but I'll still use the 5 in the Turf. My top long shot is Arklow. Then Beach Patrol coming back. Big respect for him. Deauville, the top European horse. Kurlov, who ran a very good race at Gulfstream Park last time. And Synchrony, who looks to be becoming a real turf monster. And then underneath, I'm going to go back to my top 3. Vino Rosso, Good Magic, and Bolt Doro. So that's a 3x5x3. That $1 ticket will cost $45, Matt. And just like the trifecta, I'm looking for a long shot or 2 in there. And if I can get it, we're either one, the trifecta or the pick 3, and your trifectas as well. We could be talking 4 digits for sure.
Yeah, when you've got 20 horses as part of those horizontal wagers, that means you're going to get good payoffs. And on those folks and on the trifectas that Brian gave us, the thing that you should take away the most is the way that we have structured those tickets. If you have some horses that you like better than the ones that Brian and I have put in our ticket, then go ahead and substitute them in there. We are giving you these kind of ticket structures in the trifectas and in the pick 3s as ways, smart ways as a bettor that you can make a big score.
Apollo's Curse. Matt, what is it, and why is everyone talking about it?
Apollo's Curse is the fact that since 1882, when Apollo won the Kentucky Derby, he was the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby without running as a 2-year-old. So that's 136 years that have gone by. We have 2 opportunities this year with Justify and with Magnum Moon for the Apollo curse to be broken.
Matt, my first question is, did you have Apollo back in 1882?
You know what, Brian? I did not, because I like a horse with a 2-year-old foundation.
As do I, and as you can tell by our wagers a little bit, we're saying push a little bit to these 2 horses, these 2 magnificent horses. Matt, obviously, these are 2 very, very talented horses. There's no doubt about that. Justify rave reviews for the Bob Baffert barn at Santa Anita in 3 races, and Magnum Moon, much the same for Todd Pletcher, although he's run at 3 different racetracks in Florida and Arkansas. Matt, Justify didn't start until February, and he's been the buzz horse ever since he made his first start. This son of Scat Daddy has been ultra impressive in all 3 races. Only 1 stakes race. He really does have the same schedule that Curlin had coming in 11 years ago. Although I will say Curlin ran at 2 graded stakes because he went right from a maiden race to the Rebel. Now, Curlin ran in February, March, and April. Justify is doing the same thing. Justify is all that and a bag of chips. We know that. However, we don't know if he's going to handle everything thrown at him on the first Saturday in May. If we remember back in 2007, Curlin, he had some trouble early, but he probably didn't run his very best race because he was a distant 3rd behind good horses in Street Sense and Heartspun. There are good horses in this race too, Matt.
There certainly are. And talking about Curlin, we know what a fantastic horse Curlin turned out to be, and all of the great things that he did in his career as a 3-year-old and as a 4-year-old. But it's the Kentucky Derby. It's this big field, and even with the talent, the known talent that Curlin turned into, he was not able to win the Kentucky Derby. And like you said, Brian, he wasn't even really that close.
Right. And in fairness, we should say that Curlin ran into trouble early in the race, was farther back than he wanted to be. But that's what happens in the Kentucky Derby. And Curlin showed a lot to eventually get up for third. And then, of course, 2 weeks later, he rebounded with just a thrilling late stretch drive to nip Street Sense, the Derby winner in the Preakness. So Justify and Curlin, there's a lot in common there. Curlin, kind of a big, beastly, gorgeous-looking horse. Speaking of good-looking horses, Matt, Magnum Moon, I've been very impressed with the way he looks here at Churchill Downs as well. This is the first time I've seen a lot of these horses in person, folks. And Magnum Moon is a looker. And we can compare him a little bit to Bodemeister, Matt, because they have a similar schedule. They started their careers in January, and they did run once every month as well. But they have that one extra race, January, February, March, and April. Bodemeister, like Magnum Moon, had a good deal of speed, probably even more speed than Magnum Moon. Also came from Arkansas, as is Magnum Moon. And Bodemeister gave it a real run in the Kentucky Derby.
He sure did, and he got a pretty darn good trip in there. Was on the lead almost the entire race. He got so close to breaking Apollo's curse. He was just run down at the end by I'll Have Another. But that just goes to show, Brian, even if you get that good trip like Bodemeister did, it is still super tough to hang on and win the Derby and take down Apollo's curse.
Right, and Bodemeister, there was a strong pace that day, but there wasn't as much quality speed as it looks like there is in this race. So, folks, what we're saying is, Matt, is Apollo's curse going to be broken this year?
I'm going to say no, but it wouldn't surprise me because, just to say something in favor of Justify. His trainer, Mr. Baffert, he has done this in the past, and we've seen it, springing these 3-year-olds without a lot of races that come and just look so magnificent and continue on to win race after race. If the Derby wasn't 20 horses, I'd probably be more confident that Justify could be the one.
And I wouldn't throw Magnum Moon out as well. Obviously, both horses have a chance. This is the best chance to break Apollo's curse with the tandem of them two, just of two undefeated, talented, good-looking horses. But I'm going to go with Matt as well. In my opinion, it will not be broken this year, although this is a strong chance to do it. Apollo's curse, Matt, maybe we'll be talking about it again next year. Matt, the Kentucky Derby, it's most of America's favorite horse race of the year. We looked at the draw, we looked at the morning line odds, we gave out our bets, we talked about some of the big favorites and the curse that they're going to try to break. Now let's just celebrate the Kentucky Derby a little bit. I want to talk about our favorite Kentucky Derby editions. We just picked one for brevity's sake here, folks. Matt, what is your favorite Kentucky Derby?
Well, my wife always tells me to stop living in the past, so I'm not going to say Secretariat in here, Brian. I'm going to say American Pharoah in 2015. American Pharoah was a horse that I liked all along the Derby trail that year. I picked him in every single race that he was in. I picked him in the Derby, and he ran great in that race and started off such a fantastic and marvelous year in horse racing and went on to win the Triple Crown so definitively, and then continued along to win the Breeders' Cup Classic and stamped himself as a Grand Slam winner. I thought American Pharoah's connections and everything that he did for racing, his demeanor, and so many racing fans got to get up close and personal with the first Triple Crown winner in 37 years. So the Kentucky Derby is a fantastic race, and it can start some wonderful things off in racing. So American Pharoah in 2015 for me.
Matt, you could have lived in the past like I often do as well and said Secretariat over Sham in 73. But American Pharoah is another really good choice. Mr. Triple Crown, we'll call you from now on. American Pharoah, the first Triple Crown winner in such a long time. I was actually down in the winner's circle there for that race. American Pharoah going way wide on the turn. And, horses behind him, their careers might have been a little spotty after the fact, but I want to tell you, those were some good horses he was beating on that afternoon in Firing Line and Dortmund and Frosted. So big performance, a wide performance, wonderful horse, wonderful race, wonderful series of Triple Crown races. But like you mentioned, a really sweet horse too. I'm a horse lover, Matt, and American Pharoah was just had that personality that was easy to love. So good choice. I am going to go a little farther back, not way back to 73 when I was very young, but back to some college days for me. And one of the first derbies I ever attended, I was with a lot of friends. I was in the infield, Matt, but Unbridled was my horse all year long. In the Bluegrass, I saw him get beat by Summer Squall, but that was a very different kind of race than I knew the Derby would be. A lot less horses, different kind of track, a lot less speed in there. So I stayed on Unbridled, told all my friends that were more casual race fans, most of them, and that was a great day. Handicapping, I really liked Unbridled as a horse. I liked the family, the Florida bred with the blood of Fabiano and the Canadian mare Le Fabuleux. I loved the way he looked physically. And I think it was a terrific year as well because Unbridled and Summer Squall were two really good horses. And then after just celebrating like crazy in the infield with all my buddies, I got home to watch a trainer that I really liked, Carl Napsker, have that beautiful moment with Mrs. Genter up in the stands. And that only made it all the better. So Unbridled, Mr. Frisky was the favorite. He was not quite a Derby horse. Summer Squall ran a big race, but was only second best. Pleasant Tap was third. Matt Silver Ending was another good horse in there. But that Derby was all about Unbridled, and I loved it.
Yeah, and Unbridled went on to have a wonderful career as a stallion and have a pretty big influence on the thoroughbreds that came after him.
Absolutely. Hey, Matt, that's our Kentucky Derby show. We are literally 4 days away from the Kentucky Derby, and we can't wait. We both think, we never know what will happen down the road, but we both think this is a special kind of field, so we hope you enjoy it. I want to thank our sponsor, Derby Wars, the best contest site out there. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already done it here at Horse Racing Nation. Matt and I are also doing a new venture that we invite you to find out more about or maybe even join us. That's called Derby Day Racing. We're doing horse racing partnerships starting right about now. We're getting 2-year-olds this year, Matt. You're excited about that. Can I get a parting shot from you, sir?
Yeah, and all of our fans on HorseCenter, I wish you good luck in your wagers. This is a big opportunity to make a big score, so go for it and good luck. I also, of course, want to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together this show.
Thank you to Brett Workman. Matt, I'm not going to let you leave just yet. I have a few questions for you, sir. First of all, actually, let me give out a long shot, Matt. There is a long shot I like on Oaks Day. It's in the 8 Bell Stakes, ton of speed. Look at the Larry Jones filly a little bit. Hold Her Tight, rallying. She hasn't been in stakes company before, but she's run against some good fillies, and she's really the only good rallier in the race. So watch out for Hold Her Tight in the 8 Bells. But Matt, I want to know who's your top pick. I'm going to ask just one horse. Top pick in the Oaks, top pick in the Derby.
Well, let's start with the Oaks. My top pick in the Oaks is Midnight Bisou. I think that the 9 furlongs, there's going to be a closer come a running in that race, and I think she's the best one for the bill. And in the Kentucky Derby, I'm going to stick with kind of what I referenced with American Pharoah and what I've kind of done in the last few years, I'm going to stick with the horse that I've liked the most along the Derby Trail. I'm not going to let what's happened the last few days and maybe the last few weeks change my mind. So I am picking Audible to win the Kentucky Derby.
And I am going to keep it simple, folks. Midnight Bassoon and Vino Rosso. We will see you next week as we recap everything that happened at Kentucky Derby 2018. See you then.